Hello everybody, this is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and I've kept it off for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and weight maintenance. Today we're going to continue the series Reflections of a Weight Loss Warrior and talk about my first weight gain. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my books, my website, which has a lot of articles and recipes that might be useful. And if you want to help me and patronize the channel, please make a donation via PayPal, or at the least just hit the like button, the notification button, and post a comment. All right, so now we're at the end of my college years. So this is about 4 or 5 years into my weight loss. I'd say it'd be 5 years for my weight loss. And at this point I am 22, 23. I've gone through my college years. I didn't really talk about my dating life in the last couple episodes about college because it's not really relevant. But I didn't have any girlfriends during the time, but I did date, college date some girls during that time. Near the end of my college years, I began dating my future wife. Now, after college, I graduated with what I look in retrospect to be a useless degree. I mentioned in my episode about my father that my father was a doctor and he wanted me to be a doctor. And I went on my first day of college, undecided humanities. I changed from pre-med to undecided humanities because I loved geography and history. So I got a degree in international relations. And after I graduated in 4 years, I didn't know really what to do. I was like, what am I gonna do with this degree? So I spent an extra year in the town that I went to college with, and I started gaining weight. And I remember how kind of the routine of binging on the weekend and fasting and starving really during the week, that had worked for the first 4 years. But for whatever reason, I guess I was stressed out about my future, where I spent this 5th year kind of at the local university just taking classes. I was trying to figure out what to do. Was stressful because I started to stress eat in the middle of the night. And this was something that I had never done before. And really, I've never had this problem since then. I've never been the type, like after I eat dinner, I get hungry at 10 p.m. or I wake up and get hungry. But I guess I must have been so stressed out because I remember in the middle of the night, there was a Taco Bell near me and I'd go buy 8 bean burritos. Or I'd go to the Dunkin' Donuts and buy a dozen donuts in the middle of the night and just eat. And so, not surprisingly, during that time, I started gaining weight. And I probably gained a good 20 pounds, maybe, during this time of this kind of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. During that time, I finally did decide to go to graduate school to get a useless degree, but I went to Alaska, University of Alaska, and I got a full ride because I'm Hispanic and because I had good grades. I think I had a 3.84 GPA at my university. So I got a full ride, and eventually I moved to Alaska. And when I got to Alaska, I was still overweight. And I think I knew I was overweight. I think at that point, I stopped weighing myself every week like I had done previously in college. Because when you gain weight, you just don't, by looking at the clothes, and then you start rationalizing with the clothes. Oh, well, I've had these shorts a long time, so maybe, they've gone whiter, so it's gonna be tight. You just make up excuses. But I definitely had gained weight. So I got to Alaska. I didn't know anybody there. And I remember this summer I got there like in late May. And I had to get through the summer before school started. And not surprisingly, I didn't eat well because, again, I didn't have a mechanism to eat well. I still had disordered eating, but kind of the calorie in, calorie out method of college worked. But now that I was, eating in the middle of the night before I left to go to Alaska, I gained this weight. And when I was in Alaska during that summer, I had nothing to do. I remember trying to meet up with some of the other graduate students, and then I chickened out at the end because I knew I was fat, and I had this history of getting panic attacks and sweat attacks, which I mentioned I think in episode 2 of Confessions of an Obese Child. That this lingered all the way to graduate school and then later in PhD school, doctoral school. So pretty much that summer, all I did was, this is summer of '97, so I remember watching a lot of MTV. I remember seeing Fiona Apple's videos quite a bit, and Hanson was big at that time, and just eating a lot of Burger King. There was a Burger King over there, and I remember just eating a lot of Burger King during the day. And I distinctly remember this. I would still... That summer, I didn't have a gym to belong to because I don't think I was a member of the university yet. But I literally remember in my apartment just going to Safeway, because I didn't have Safeways in Texas, but they had Safeways in Alaska. Going to Safeway, getting cakes and cookies, and then getting Burger King, just a bunch of food, and having them all on my table. Excuse me, sneeze at it there. Having them all on my table like at 12 o'clock and just eating it throughout the day and then taking a nap, falling asleep, and then of course feeling like crap and self-loathing. And this continued through most of the summer. Then what happened was in the fall of '97, when I started my graduate program, I got into the gym and they had an indoor track. And at that time, my future wife moved to Alaska with me to start her program. And I started losing the weight again. And I don't know if it was because I started to lose the weight before she got there. She got there like in late October. But I don't know if it was just having the routine of school or having the gym. But then I started losing the weight, and I lost it pretty fast to the point where by like Christmas of that first year in Alaska, I was back to my regular weight. But this was the first of, I would say, 2 or maybe 3 times where I regained a quarter of my weight or so forth. And the next one we'll talk about is when my father died. But in retrospect, I mean, look, I could have been one of those guys. I've talked about the statistic of 90% of people who lose over 100 pounds gain it back. And I was looking to be that statistic of gaining it back. And I talked about all through college and my senior year in high school, the petrifying fear of gaining the weight back. And I think anybody who loses weight feels this way. And this is why a lot of people lead to vomiting and throwing up and all these things. And that petrifying fear, I guess, was still there, but I was so stressed out for some reason that middle year, that 5th year, that I turned into this really bad eating, which I'd never done before, at least middle of the night binge eating, I should say, because day binge eating, we got another 10 years of this going on, which we'll talk about later. But by the grace of God and just by, I think, just having the workout regimen of running, and I probably started eating better because I am a creature of routine. I need routine throughout my day. I do this at this time, this at this time, this at this time. And so I think with school starting, having the routine, and then having the gym, I was able to lose the weight. And then when my future wife came in October, I think that probably helped because just having her around regulated my eating. And I think that helped. But the next episode, we'll talk about like food as my mistress, like what happened and how my binge eating morphed from being very open, having food everywhere, to now having to hide it because I didn't want my future wife to know about it, which is a future episode. Guys, post in the comments, let me know if you can relate to this experience. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.